So I am now working on mounting the pump and whatever else is involved in the fuel system, and you can see I've taken off the nose section from the rest of the plane. And what I'd like to do, I think, is mount my pump right in this section. The UAT is going to sit on top, so that's going to be a fairly short distance between the pump and the UAT, which is good. And then from the pump out to the turbine, which is fine. And so I made this plate, and this plate holds the pump, and inside I made a sort of a shelf. So there's that plate right there, and then I glued another plate to the floor of the plane, and the idea is inserting the pump is going to work something like this. So the pump will go in, the loops will just sit by the edge here, and this goes underneath that shelf, and then a screw goes in here. Let's see if I can get that closer so we can see what that looks like. And then a screw goes in here to secure this pump assembly in place. And since the walls come up, the pump cannot move sideways, it cannot move up and down because of that shelf that I put in the back. And a screw, nice elegant solution. And so all my wires are going to be hidden over here, so you can see the length of my connectors, for most of them coming from the front, ends up right here. So I think that's going to be a nice spot to hide the pump away from everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and plumb this in and show you what that result looks like. So the pump is mounted. You can see that that plate's in place. There's a screw right here, and that's not going anywhere. I have wire wrapped my connections, as you can see there, and basically this is the connection. This connection here goes to the turbine, and the blue line here is what's going to go to the UAT. Now the jet comes with the UAT and zip ties, so I've already mounted that as well. This came open, so I closed it as tight as I could get it. Some people like to just put epoxy into the lid and make sure that it doesn't leak or anything, but I'm gonna leave it that way for now until I have a reason to glue it. But this is gonna now sit right where these notches are, so it's gonna sit up in here. I gotta get the gear down, but it's gonna sit at that level there, and so that's why this is sitting here. And that's gonna go into the pickup for the UAT. And then once that's done, pretty much what's left will be getting the tanks from the back to feed into, I guess I'm gonna use this, and then that guy will be our fill tube, and then our fuel system is pretty much done. The reason I did not connect a full length of tubing is because I like to use my Festo connection, so I'm going to use a 4 to 4 millimeter Festo, and that keeps this disassembled. Let's show the Festo connections that I was talking about. So this connection right here is what's going to go to the turbine. It's already been wired, and you can see the turbine has been installed over there. Pretty straightforward process to install that. And then we have the second piece here, which I'm uncovering since I'm going to put in the final wiring. And this comes from the tanks, and this Festo is going to connect into the top of the UAT. So it's going to connect to right here. So from here to right here, and then from this guy to this Festo connection to this fuel line for the turbine. So I'll put that together, and we'll go from there. You can now see the line that's coming from the tank, but also the turbine line, which is this guy right here. I made that line long enough so that I can, if needed, inspect the Festo connections or disconnect. So this is coming from the pump, and this side's going to the turbine, and it's long enough that I can pull this out to inspect it, and that's important. But then once it's sitting there, it just sort of goes away. So when I'm building turbines, I like to keep that flexibility to make it as serviceable as possible. All installed, and so what's left is the pickup for the turbine, and that's going to come in through here, but I need the deck that goes in front of this to make sure that everything fits correctly and see if there's a through hole for that piping to go through. I'm gonna operate it from this back, so this hatch is gonna be open and everything else is gonna get closed, so that when the turbine is getting fueled and started, all of that stuff sits right in this area here. I did forget to mention that I need to add a valve, so I think I'll add my shut-off valve right around here, and I'll show you once that's done. By pushing the UAT back and having it such that it sits exactly in the cutout, I guess that's how it was intended to be. And the bend you can see there is not too sharp, so there's still no kinks in the pipe at all, or the tubing, and it bends up and then bends around, and you can see that also is not showing any signs of kinking. I have a retaining clip here, and I may move this clip or just leave it, you know, hanging in there just like that, because the canopy is gonna sit here, and in any case there's enough room in the back for the servo. So that's what I wanted to show. With the 170 in the back, it looks like I'm gonna need my batteries placed in this position. So my 2200 turbine battery is gonna be right around here, and my two Smooth Flight 16 batteries are gonna go right around this area here, and that balances out pretty good. I should also mention that to be careful when you're securing the UAT using zip ties. Look, there are previously holes that were here for the zip tie, so there's one of them right there, and you can see on the other side it just broke off because it's really close to the edge here. So I drilled my own holes way further out, so you can see one hole right there, and the other one on the other side. And with those two holes, I can now secure this UAT sort of properly with a larger zip tie that's actually going to get more bite. So just a note, be careful when doing that. I kind of broke both the mounting spots in the front and the back and had to drill. So this is going to be a final reveal of what the setup looks like. So in the front we have the two Smooth Flight batteries sitting on the left and the right in here. There's your Smooth Flight 16 and the remote switch. In here we have our turbine battery, and it turns out that this placement with the turbine that I have gives me the proper CG. I'll talk about that in a second. And then under there we have our UAT, and as I said, I found a way to turn this tube around and have it, you know, spiral, so that the servo that's down here, when it comes up, it doesn't actually interfere with that. And then moving back, we have our turbine. I put a little bit of a big turbine in here, but I think I'm going to change it back. So I had a 140 initially, but it turned out to have some issues, so I've sent that in. And in place of that, we're going to have a 170, so it's going to be quite a bit of power. I'll test to see that the pipe and all of that can handle it, but it'll be going easy on it until I get my 140 back.